Greetings to everyone on the occasion of International Mother Language Day 2023. 21st February was declared to be the International Mother Language Day by UNESCO in 1999. It has been observed throughout the world since 21st February 2000. Since then, International Mother Language Day is worldwide annual observance held on 21st February to promote awareness of linguistics and cultural diversity and to promote multilingualism. Mother Language Day is a part of a broader initiative to promote the preservation and protection of all languages used by people of the world, as adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. Kalabodh, a platform who is constantly working on the promotion and preservation of art and culture, has been a very grown up resource hub aiming to provide services in the arena of management of museum, art, heritage, culture of India and abroad. Today, Kalabodh feels extremely content to happy to be a part of International Mother Language Day 2023. On behalf of Kalabodh, I, Dr. Arunima Das, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Gargi College, feels extremely happy and privileged to interact with linguist Dr. Arup Kumar Nath, Assistant Professor, Department of Linguistics and Language Technology, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Tezpur University, Assam. Dr. Nath's areas of interest include theoretical linguistics of morphology, language typology, and multilingualism, Indian grammatical traditions, to applied linguistics such as lexicography, language documentation, and language revitalization, etc. He has published many peer reviewed papers in reputed journals, along with book chapters in various books. He has authored two books, namely Impact of Code Switching Mixing in Assamese, a synchronic study. The second one is Bhakha Sinta Aru Homaz Setona in Assamese. The translation of the title is Language, Thought and Social Consciousness, and two edited books related to language documentation of a few endangered language of the Northeast region. He has been also regularly publishing articles in Assamese and English newspapers as well as in Hindi on a wide range of issues. He has been teaching linguistics to both postgraduate and PhD scholars at Tezpur University in Assam since 2012 till date. He is an awardee of the prestigious DATS Fellowship to carry out his research works in Germany, and he conducted accordingly few collaborative research work at the University of Hamburg, Germany, and the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, Germany, in 2014. We would like to welcome Dr. Arup Kumar Nath in this platform. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Nath.
Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Arunima Setia and Kalabodh, for having me on this show. I'm looking forward to interact with you.
Since Dr. Nath, you have been engaged with so many research projects, especially in the field of linguistics. We have seen your articles published every day in our Assamese and English newspaper in Assam and many uh, journals. So we always refer this to our own students, and I especially always forward your articles and all these write-ups. So today I'm very happy to interact with you. So we this is something because this whole International Language Day is something which is very useful for the people, especially for the linguistic scholars, and it's very important because we sometimes we forget also that what is the benefits of having expertise in the field of our own mother tongue, mother language. So I think this language has got a lot of significance, and especially while learning our language and while also to promote and also to carry forward. So would you please tell us few more details about the significance and importance of International Mother Language Day, which we are celebrating today?
Well, it's a very long and interesting question. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody who is viewing this particular show. And since it is International Mother Language Day, so let me also say one or two lines in Assamese, that is my mother tongue. মই সকলোকে আন্তৰ্জাতিক মাতৃভাষা দিৱসৰ শুভেচ্ছা জ্ঞাপন কৰিছো আৰু আশা কৰিছো আমি সকলোৱে নিজৰ নিজৰ মাতৃভাষাক ভাল পাবলৈ শিকো, আগতকৈও বেছিকৈ শিকো আৰু সকলোৱে নিজৰ নিজৰ মাতৃভাষাক আমি যিমান পাৰো বেছিকৈ ব্যৱহাৰ কৰোঁ। Well, coming to the significance and importance of IMLD, that is International Mother Language Day, uh, it is basically to make the people aware and promote the use of their own mother tongues, mother languages in every spheres of their life. So if we uh, talk about the theme of this 2023 multilingual mother language, International Mother Language Day, that is multilingual education, a necessity to transform education. Of late, people have been discussing about it, and people have started understanding the importance of mother tongues in everyone's life, because we start our life by understanding, by looking at the surrounding through our mother tongue, right? And we construct our own world, the world view through our mother languages only. And if we try to educate ourselves through mother tongue, then obviously it will be a kind of boon for all the children. Now, coming to the history of this particular day, we have to go back to the, to our neighboring country, that is Bangladesh. Uh, so the United Nations first announced the International Mother Language Day on 17th November 1999. And it was formally recognized by UNGA resolution in 2002, and finally it was adopted in 2007 on 16th May. So that was the history. As I told before, that this idea has come from, the concept has come from the Bangladesh government. It was a kind of tribute to the language martyrs that happened in 1952 in Bangladesh. So why it has happened? It is something like this. As we all know that in 1947, India got separated. We had India and Pakistan. In 1948, Pakistan government, they declared Urdu will be the sole national language in Pakistan. Since Pakistan was divided into two parts, one was West Pakistan, the other one was East Pakistan, which is the present day Bangladesh, right? While declaring this as a kind of national language, they simply did not consider the views of the East Pakistanis people. And as a result of this particular declaration, there was massive outrage, massive demonstration in the erstwhile Bangladesh. So the demand for inclusion of Bangla, especially in the national language group, it was first raised by one of the parliamentarians, that was he was Dhirendranath Datta from East Pakistan, and he raised this particular demand in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan, but it was turned down by the legislators of Pakistan Assembly, Pakistan Parliament. Since it was turned down and the sentiment of the Bengalis was badly hurt, we could see massive protests starting with the University of Dhaka, and it was the center of all kind of linguistic protest. And it was restricted not only to the university campuses, but outside also, in the main city also it was happening. There were there were rallies, demonstrations, picketings everywhere in the city of Dhaka. So during a rally in 20, in 20 in 1952, 21st February, uh, the situation turned kind of, I mean, it took a violent turn, and the police opened fire on the protesting people. And in that particular incident, uh, few people like Abdul Salam, then Abul Barkat, Rafiquddin Ahmed, Abdul Jabbar, and Safiur Rahman, they died instantly on the spot itself, and many more were injured. So that was the incident. Uh, then later on, many years later, two Bangladeshi nationals who were settled in Canada, Vancouver, in the city of Vancouver. So they were Rafiqul Islam and Abdus Salam. They requested, I mean, they wrote a letter to the then Secretary General Kofi Annan to celebrate 21st February as a International Mother Language Day. And they not only wrote it, they pursued it also. I
Okay.
mean, in UN General Assembly, what happens? Individual proposals are not normally encouraged, not accepted. It has to be come from a particular government. So later on, Rafiqul uh, and Abdul Salam, they also wrote to the then uh, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, and requested her to pass this particular resolution in their parliament. And accordingly, it was passed, and it was formally sent to UNESCO. Uh, I think that was somewhere in 1999. And finally, the 30th UNGS meet on 17 November 1999 unanimously adopted this particular resolution. So that was the background. And after that, all the nations, all the countries have started celebrating this particular day.
Thank you so much. So it has got a history, and we have many things to know in order to know the details of this day. So now, in recent times, what we have seen, there are a lot of changes in case of learning a language and learning a mother tongue, and also since we are living in a multilingual society, we definitely have to make our child know different languages, because that's a part of their day-to-day life. For example, if they are living in a multilingual society, they are getting they have to know 2 3 languages, because minimum. So in that case, we have seen people, especially children, they are learning language with different formulas. So what all changes you have seen? uh, as a general people, we have seen a lot of changes, but from the linguistic point of view, what all changes you have seen, and how do we should pursue and to encourage the new learners to go about it in order to have a balanced mother language, in between balance between mother language, mother tongue, and other languages.
All right. So one thing, Dr. Setia, we have to understand is that we live in a multilingual society, especially in India. Uh, we had a very long tradition, very long history of multilingualism. If you think about the Mahabharata days, if you think about the periods after that also, so kings used to fight for another king, right?
Mm.
If you think about the Kamrupa, uh, I mean Kamrupa king like Bhagadatta, he used to fight for Kauravas, right? So the
Mhm.
question is, what language they used to use to interact with each other? Did they speak the same language, or can you say that Sanskrit was the common language, or what was the means of communication? So we can assume that at least people had the knowledge of each other's language, right? And another example I can cite from the Aryan invasion theory, right? I mean, when the Aryan people first. I mean, that is one of the theories, right, propagated by the European scholars. When they first came to India, uh, they found that people in the northern part of India, especially in the Pakistan Afghanistan range, in the Indus Valley civilization, people were there, and finally they were forced to move to the southern part of India, right? So there are certain linguistic evidences that initially people were staying in that particular region. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there were communications, people, between people, different group of people. So that means multilingualism has been the order of our situation. Monolingualism is a kind of exception in Indian context. And if you come to the situation like Northeast India, if you go to Karbi Anglong, I mean, and also Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, you'll see people will be speaking so many languages very fluently. So that means that is the reality, and we cannot avoid. Uh, in Indian context, since you asked me the question of transformation, I mean, what changes we have seen in the recent time. In our context, I would say that, especially after the coming up of NEP 2020, this entire discourse of multilingualism has come to the forefront. So people are getting more and more aware of this particular need. So few decades ago or few years ago, it was a belief that if if a child gets the exposure of more than one language, it creates problem. It obstructs his or her understanding. But now we are looking at the same thing differently.
Mm.
Uh, so people like Skutnap Kangas or Stephen Smith or even our very own Ajit Mohanty, they are writing in different articles, different papers that uh, the monolingual education system is a kind of reductionist approach. It doesn't add value in the life of a particular child, right? Whereas the multilingual education system, or MLE, mother tongue based multilingual education system, is a kind of additive one. It adds value to the understanding, to the life of a particular child. So I could see a lot of changes happening in the coming days, especially after NEP 2020 is in force.
Yeah, that is something actually I also feel the same because when we are teaching NEP, so many courses are getting involved, and it shows the diversity of our Indian culture, and that diversity applies with our languages also. And
Yes.
so, recent times, what I see have seen since I live in Delhi, where I have seen we have been living in with different communities. So what we have, there are lots of code switching, code mixing, especially being a mother of two kids. I have seen throughout for last 11 years, I have seen my son is adopting different languages, and as a result what is happening, they are one word from one language, the other one from another languages, which, and moreover, our helpers, assistant, household assistants are from different languages, so they are picking up their languages also. That way they are at the simultaneously they are learning 4 or 5 languages. And although what I have realized, while they learning languages have become a little spontaneous and simultaneous, but they speak little late, but they speak all the language at the same time. So maybe that is one reason, that because they are taking adopting all the languages, they are considering all the languages at the same time. So maybe that's the reason that is speaking little late than a usual child who is in a monolinguistic uh, uh, who is from a monolinguistic place. So, so maybe that is one reason that is it something also say by linguistics? Linguistics also says a similar situation, or it's just my point of view being a mother.
No, I don't think it is one of the reasons, because I mean, a child, I mean, a psycholinguist or somebody who is working on language acquisition,
Mhm.
they will tell us that a child can learn any languages, provided he or she is given proper exposures. So sometimes, of course, they take time because they are confused. They will start comparing, like in language X, that was the word. In language Y, the word was something else. And while speaking language Y, they might bring some words or some phrases from language X. So code switching, as you have mentioned in your question, code switching and code mixing, these are very natural phenomenon. We just cannot blame, or we just cannot punish anybody for switching code or languages, right? In their uh, conversations. So it's very natural, and well, yeah, I think I have answered your question. Yeah, it's very natural thing. I mean, you don't have to think much. I mean, in due course of time, a child will pick up any languages in its time.
So it reminds me one more experience. I was working with some communities in Rivoy district in Meghalaya, and the title of the project was um, intertribal relationship among the tribal communities of Northeast. So I was working in Rivoy district, and I came across many communities. So after passing Khanapara, Guwahati, Rivoy starts.
Yeah,
So when I I went to some of the internal places. So what I saw, there are around 30, 40 families, and out of 30, 40, two of them are from Naga, two from Tiwa from Khasi, Jayantia. So at the same stretch, we find so many communities, and
yeah,
they have been speaking their languages, and they are friends. They are living in such a unity, and they know their all the languages. So that is probably the spontaneous process through which all of them, they learn their languages at the same time. That's how they were already multilingual.
right. Yeah, yeah.
So
It
that
is.
probably, I think, the characteristics of our Northeast as well as our Indian context.
Yeah, it is more or less same. I mean, yeah, it is as I said. Code mixing, switching is very natural. We cannot stop anybody, or we cannot instruct, or we cannot direct that you should not use this particular phrase or particular word from language X or language Y. See, there are one approach that is a kind of Puritan approach, right? So those who believe in that particular approach. They believe in prescriptivism. They want to prescribe the speakers of a particular language that you should be using this kind of languages, or you ought to use this kind of languages, or you should not be use this kind of languages, right? So in reality, that doesn't happen. This is only in the theory, only in written language, maybe it is possible, but in reality it doesn't happen, right? So yeah, you are quite right. I mean, when you narrated the example from Northeast India. So nowadays, I mean, in the recent time, a particular theory has emerged, that is translanguaging, that I have been working on this particular theory for some time. So there we actually see, the word translanguaging itself is a kind of verb. It is not a noun. Language, we consider it as a kind of noun, right? It is an ontological concept, an entity. So we put language X, Y, Z in three different places, different contexts, and we try to bring them as and when it is required. But it is not like that. It is a kind of internal process. We have to internalize each and everything that we experience in our life. So therefore, it is a kind of ongoing process. Through certain rules, through certain regulations, we cannot control the minds of the speakers of any language.
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
Uh, now, one more thing is coming to my mind. Since English has become the official language, so what I have seen at home, mothers especially, they speak to their child. They're from India. They have their own vernacular language, mother tongue. So, but then also what we see at home, they try to focus mainly in English because it's an official language. Ultimately, the child is going to speak and learn English in school as well as later. So, what is your suggestion? how do we talk, how do we speak, and which language we should use for our day to day in our family, in the household, so that they grow. Because you said psycholinguistics, so that is something, and which is the language that we should focus on.
Well, it's
What does
something very
this
interesting.
mean?
It's a very interesting question and very tricky to answer. A tricky question to answer. Why? See, why the mothers or parents are in English with their children? So it is a result of their language policy, right? See, every household has a language policy, like every state, every country. So, and it is determined by the social reality. So, whatever is happening outside their family, they observe it very nicely, and after that they will come to a conclusion that if our children learn a language X or Y very fluently, his or her future would be secured. So that is a result of that particular thing. And second thing is that the problem is that we are yet to decolonize our minds. We were colonized by a particular country, and we have been ruled by them for so many years, more than 200 years, approximately 200 years, right? And it's very difficult to erase that particular mindset. It will take years, I mean, not just 75 years, maybe 100 years. But I think we are moving towards, I mean, we are on the right track at the moment. We're trying to decolonize our mind. So the problem is that we still believe that certain languages are more prestigious, certain languages are more valuable, certain languages will give uh, I mean, economic prosperity in our life. So those things are very much there in our minds. And who would, all the parents would think that their children should do better in their future life. They should not struggle to speak something, to present something. So that is quite natural. And at the same time, let me also tell you one thing, that I am not against the English language, because now this is one example. We are interacting in the English language because we know that through this language we can reach out to many people, right? So, but at the same time, my point is that we should not show any kind of disrespect. We should not be disloyal to our mother tongues. If we do not speak our own languages with our own generation, if we do not pass our languages to the next generation, then obviously that language will die. That is one reason. The other reason is that the overall growth of the children will not be complete. That will be incomplete, because he will live a kind of unidirectional life, because he won't be able to contextualize his culture through another language, right? So therefore, my humble suggestion to all the parents is that, of course, they should teach their children the knowledge of the English language, but at the same time, they should also make their children equally fluent and loyal towards their own language.
Yeah, this is something very important. I think we should pass it on, because it mother tongue as well as learning one official language is equally very important, and also to
Yes,
maintain
absolutely.
balance.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So this is actually an on. I think we can discuss it for many more hours and days. It's but and then I would like to know few things about your research. What all research that we should think of uh, in order to carry on this language work, because it's an upcoming and it's a very ongoing research work. So for me, there, like my now at my point, my query is what all future prospective research areas are there where the upcoming scholars may concentrate on. So,
Well,
yeah.
especially after the coming up of NEP 2020s, I think I would say sky is the limit, especially in the areas of linguistic research. And why I'm saying so, because the NEP has the provision provision for mother tongue based education, not only in the early stages, in the advanced stages also, especially at secondary level, and if possible, it should be also in the higher educational sector, right? So till very recently, everything was done through English language or one of the dominant languages in a particular region, right? Now, since we are shifting focus from that to the new goal, right? So we would be needing a lot of people who produce textbooks, for example, for this kind of education system. Then we would be needing a lot of grammars for these schools. These languages, grammar books, then dictionaries, then uh, of course uh, other online materials. For example, in higher education sector, I'm sure you are aware of the MOOCs kind of courses. So in the uh, uh, secondary and primary also probably would be uh, preparing a lot of online contents. So yes, there are a lot of things we can work, and most importantly, I would say that dictionaries, grammar books, and the training of these people, especially the teachers who would understand the philosophy of NEP 2020 nicely, and so that they can deliver it on the ground.
So I was also now thinking the saving languages are very important. So there's a word we have been using, endangered language. So this is actually a very terrible situation. So endangered language, that means this is a dangerous, some dangerous situation is there for languages. So, and this should not happen actually. What I feel being a student of literature and language. So, how to save the language? That is one of the very important questions that I have in my mind. And please let us know something about it and how to go forward.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most important questions we should be discussing on this particular day. Why we should save languages, right? So, a few decades ago, people were not aware of this particular phenomenon happening. People were mostly after the dominant and major languages, and there was a huge negative attitude towards their minority languages, towards their mother tongues, if they're small in numbers, right? But after a report that was published by UNESCO, all of a sudden people start realizing that this is happening everywhere. And India, we as a country, India, we topped in that list with the number 197, if I remember it correctly. So that was a quite alarming situation. And suddenly, the governments uh, at that time, that they also realized that this is a very serious situation and we should do something. Now the question is why we should save languages. What is the reason? First of all, there are a couple of reasons. I'll quickly give you three, four reasons for that. First of all, losing a language also means losing your own culture, very colorful culture, traditions, and most importantly, the knowledge tradition. I'm sure you agree with me that every language brings a kind of we consider all the languages as the repositories of knowledge. I can give you one or two examples. For example, there are some languages in spoken by the Eskimos in the northern pole. So it's a very cold region. All the time you will see ice. So what happens? And these languages are kind of minority languages. So what happens for different shape and size of ice? They had different names. It would be more than 50. Now, if we ask ourselves how many words are there to denote ice in your language, for example, in my language, I mean, in our language, we'll come up with just one or two words for the word ice. For example, in Assamese, I can say borof or him or tukhar. So beyond that, we just cannot go, right? But
Mhm.
in this language, what happens? They have more than 50 items. So that means they have a huge source of knowledge. And if we lose that language, then we are going to lose that particular amount of traditional knowledge, right? Then I can cite one example from my own field work that I did few years ago. That was a Thai group of language, Thai Phake. So there I realized that when you ask a child, what is your name? And the answer gives me the information. I mean, later on that was told to me by one of the informants that the answer gives us the information, the exact number of the child. If I mean, in their family, if they have 5 children in their family, from the name itself, you will get to know that that the number is fourth or fifth or third or second or one.
Okay.
So it is a kind of knowledge that other languages do not have, right?
Mhm.
Similarly, the kinship terminologies. In English, we have auntie and uncle, right? Sir and madam. But in Indian languages, there are so many terms. These are all repositories of language. So to save these kind of knowledge traditions, we must save our languages. And as I said, if you do not have the language, then you do not have your community identity.
True.
Right? If you do not speak Assamese or Bangla or Hindi, then nobody will consider you as a member of that particular speech community. Right? Therefore, we must save our languages. And thirdly, from justice point of view, also we should save our languages. So, what is it? See, our constitution has given us the right to exercise our own languages everywhere it is possible. Right? I mean, wherever it is possible, right? But what happens? We are still following the colonial practices of I mean, practicing judiciary. Say, for example, in English, right? So, if a tribal individual from a very remote village of Arunachal Pradesh or Nagaland, when he comes to a judiciary system, because of the language barrier, sometimes he or she might not be able to present his case, right? So therefore, here the question of linguistic human rights also arises. So if there is a provision for him or her to represent his case through his language or her language, then obviously things would have been different. So from that perspective, also we should save our languages. Fourthly, from sustainable ecological perspective, also we must save or we must maintain our language. See, all everywhere we appreciate the fact that if there is a kind of ecological balance, then it's good for all of us. And we are all dependent on each other. Suppose tomorrow there is no chicken, okay, that entire thing is extinct, then we won't be able to eat chicken, right? And again, that is dependent on something else. So here I would like to remember one of my experiences. That was, I think, 2016 when I went to attend a conference in Leiden, Netherlands, the Netherlands. So there, one of the professors, senior professors from Bangladesh, he was settled somewhere in Malaysia. So he actually argued with me that what is the point of saving the minority languages? We must leave these languages to die. So I said, and he said that it is just like having mosquitoes in uh, our surrounding. When mosquitoes are not beneficial for us, then I objected. I said, see, mosquitoes might be harmful for us, but these are food for so many species. If mosquitoes are eradicated from Earth, then it will bring an alarm bell for so many species, right? So the same argument we can bring. All the languages should be saved for the sake of the survival of the majority or dominant languages. And the other reason I have already explained to you in my earlier question, from cognitive point of view also, the overall cognitive growth point of view also, we must maintain the diversity of languages. And in other spheres, we all celebrate diversity, right? I mean, we always say that diversity is good, but why not in languages? We should also have diversity in languages. So I think these are some reasons why we should maintain and we should pass on our languages to the next generation.
So in that case, I would like to know few process through which we can save the languages, probably, which is very handy and through
Right.
which we can, yeah.
Well, the thing is that all the stakeholders have to be responsible for saving languages, starting from the family, then outside the family, the academic institutions, government offices, everywhere. There should be provision where people can use their own languages. I mean, we have to expand the linguistic domains. We should not be restrict it to the home domain only, right? If it is included in the academic, I mean, uh, I mean,
Area.
system, academic system, educational system, then obviously people will think that their languages are also worthy of uh, passing it to the next generation. If they think that their language is taught in the schools, if they think that, I mean, if they are convinced that their languages are researched at the university level, then obviously they will think that, okay, see, our language is also not something very something. It is something to be preserved.
Mhm.
Okay, I think, yeah. And if possible, we should have a kind of language economy. So if we cannot relate the languages with the market,
Hmm.
then there will be problem of sustainability. And of course, we should also try to uh, integrate languages with the modern technologies, what you call it as language technologies. For example, in our mobile phones now, we can give instructions through our own languages, at least the majority languages, dominant languages, not the minority languages. So if we could do that also, then obviously it will help the languages uh, to survive in the long run.
Yeah. I think this is very informative. And what I have realized is small, small dialects which we find in our areas, that is also needs to be preserved. And normally, what we feel, minority languages, they get little people from minority languages, they get little um, awkward when they speak in front of the mainstream language, and that is something I think not good and not okay. And I think that also needs to be, people should be aware of that also. That is, all these small small dialects are as equal as the mainstream language. It's also very important to save them too.
Yeah, yeah, it is something very much part of what I call it as accent shaming, right? Just like body shaming, we shame the accents of a particular variety, particular group of people. So dialects, see, dialects are very much part of the overall language only. I mean, we cannot say that since you speak a particular dialects and you don't belong to that particular language. For example, in Assam context, the Hibohagoryo Assamese is considered the standard variety, right? So the people from Kamrup, they are also very much part of that Assamese identity, Assamese language, Assamese nationalism. That's because they speak a different kind of Assamese. That doesn't mean that they don't belong to that one. And we have to educate, we have to make the people aware, especially the speakers of the standard Assamese or standard language for that matter, uh, to develop a kind of uh, respectful attitude towards all the languages. Then there'll be no problem.
Thank you so much for such an informative session, and I'm sure many will be benefited from this. Especially, it is kind of a awareness that probably people may consider. And saving a language is as important as save a soul, I feel, at this moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. And once again, thank you, Kalabodh, and to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.